What would you say shaped you?
Death, divorce, and love. I vividly remember being 3 years old and watching my parents like viciously yell at each other. And I swore I'd never do that. And I turn around and a couple years later, like, holy shit, I'm my dad in this situation. I had the American dream. I had the corner house, white picket fence, purebred dog, 2 brand new cars in the driveway, wife, 3 amazing, beautiful, healthy kids, and a multi-million-dollar business.
But how did it feel though?
That's the problem. You can only hold up that fake mask for so long. For me, it was always business first. And if you want to get this above this level, you've got to raise yourself before you can bring the business to the next level. And I realized that the foundation that I built was built shoddy. And in order to tear it down, I had to do things that were uncomprehendable to most. I had to split up a marriage right after my ex-wife battled breast cancer and underwent a double mastectomy. I learned about my dad putting hands on my mom when I was going through my divorce. One of the questions that she asked my ex out of the gate was, did he put his hands on you?
Did you think that that was your breaking point? Did you ever consider, even taking your own life? Today on Dear Founder, I'm sitting down with a guy who had it all. Everything you would think of, he had. He's a published author. He had the dream house, the dream cars, the white picket fence, the American dream. But he has some skeletons in the closet. On today's episode, he reveals some things that honestly kind of shocked me. I was not anticipating that. So if you've ever been in a position where you don't know if anyone else is dealing with what you're dealing with, you're going to want to stick around and listen to this guy's story because he tells everything. He holds nothing back and pulls no punches. So thanks for tuning in to this episode of Dear Founder. Tomas Keenan, thanks for being on here, man.
This is an honor, and I'm very grateful. We were chatting before we started here tonight, and it's been a while since I've done this. I did one recently, but it was kind of mixed in with the company and with the other co-founder, Bilyeu. And it's been a long time coming. I kind of went underground for a couple of years, go work through some things, and this is the reemergence. I kind of look at it.
Okay. Dude, I've got tons of questions for you, but we're going to keep it in the time frame that we need to. And we are joined by my co-host, as always, the wonderful Lexi. Thanks for being on here.
Always.
There's very few times, very rare times where I get butterflies and flutters. And this is one of them, and it's happening now. So if the camera sees my face is getting red, it's because we're going there. So, there's some dark ages. I call them the dark ages, right? Yeah. But a lot happens before then. So we're going to dive into that, but a lot happens before then. What would you say shaped you growing up? What are the elements that, regardless of any relevance or links to business, what in your life happened that made Tomas?
Death, divorce, and love. If I had to sum it up in 3 words. And a lot of it happened right around the same time. I vividly remember being 3 years old and watching my parents viciously yell at each other. And first time I had experienced it, and I remember it very clearly to this day. I remember precisely where they were standing, who was doing what, and exactly where I was. My mom still lives in that house. So when I go back there, I get to see the scene of the incident. Fast forward a year or so, and my mom's mom, my grandmother, died. Right, so there's the divorce, there's the death, but at the same point in time, I was just surrounded by this giant circle of love. So that was definitely something that shaped me big time as a kid growing up.
What was the relationship like with your dad at that time? Because
he was dad. My parents still live together. Oh yeah. So that was the year they divorced, right? So up until that point, dad was dad, and he was always the funny guy. I would sit in his lap and hang out, and he was always funny, and he always smelled kind of weird. Yeah, truthfully, And later on in life, I learned, dad smelled weird because he was drinking beer nonstop and smoking weed. Right? Mom used to call him funny cigarettes. To 4-year-old me.
The wacky tobacco.
Yes. Yeah.
So, did that change the way you looked at him at all? How old were you when you found out that he was doing funny things?
Pretty early on. I was even at that age, my mom kind of said, hey, she would ask me questions. Hey, was your dad smoking? Well, yeah. Well, what kind of cigarette was it? Was it a smelly cigarette or was it a regular cigarette? Right. So I kind of knew something was up at a really, really early age. I just didn't know what it was. And it wasn't until I was, I don't know, 10-ish, maybe a little bit younger, where I understood what it was. And I think weed has such a different angle and perception amongst most of society today versus it did in the early 80s. And I was like, oh, that's bad stuff. You can't go anywhere near that stuff over there. So yeah, it definitely gave me an outlook on it for sure.
Mm-hmm. So who did you live with primarily?
My mom.
You lived with mom?
Yep. I did every other weekend and like a Wednesday night dinner with dad. And my dad, he lived about a mile from my mom most of my life growing up. And by the time I was 13, 14, my parents were pretty cool with me going wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted to. And I would go sometimes spend a week at my dad's. But the majority of the time was still at mom's for sure. She was I'll credit my mom to taking on 95% of the work to make me who I am today.
Wow. What part of the dynamics between you and your dad's relationship was different? Because you said they were like violently screaming. Did they ever get physical?
I learned later in life, yes. But I didn't know that until I was 40 something years old. Matter of fact, I learned about my dad putting hands on my mom. And I always sort of kind of had an idea, right? As you get a little bit older and you kind of put two and two together and you become an adult. But I got confirmation from that from my mother when I was going through my divorce. Because one of the things that really pissed me off, and like me and my mom are really cool these days, okay? But there was a lot of, like, my divorce to a lot of people came out of left field. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions that she asked my ex out of the gate was, did he put his hands on you? And like, I abhor that shit. I have my entire life. Like, I ain't the guy for that. Mm-hmm. Right. And I was just like, oh my God, my mom just asked this woman who I spent the last 20 something years with if I put my hands on her.
Yeah.
Like, that didn't sit well with me. And it caused some conflict between me and my mom for a while. But it was needed, I think. I think we kind of had to take this break and separate from each other for a little bit. I was doing a lot of work on me. And I went into Utah and worked with this woman, did a massive plant medicine journey. And one of the things that she told me is, she goes, at some point in time, it's okay if you retract your drawbridge and just leave that moat around you for a little while.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect my mom to be one of those people that I have to do that with. Right. And fast forward a couple months and she was one of the ones. And like, I'm so honored to say, like, that thing has been put back down. Yeah. It's the drawbridge is now in a 360 degree purview to my life. And she's got full access as much as she wants because she's just that special to me.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great. It's cool to see restoration because in the moment, I'm sure it didn't feel like this will never work again. No. You're like, you crossed the line.
I never thought it was a permanent thing. I always knew deep down inside, like that subconscious level, that it's like, yeah, this is just for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I've been through enough relationships, business, personal, friends, all those kind of things where I have retracted intentionally and knowing from the moment I retracted that game over, see you later, I will never talk to you again. Mm-hmm. It's one of my, I don't know if you want to call it a superpower, but I have the ability to be extremely cold once someone pushes me over the edge. Like, you don't exist to me anymore.
Definitely a superpower for sure, because I don't have that ability and it's a lot of work for me to have boundaries with people. So
yeah, I could definitely use help with boundaries on occasion. We've had conversations with that with the current missus recently. And she's going to watch this and she's going to laugh. But it's one of those things that served well. But at the same point in time, sometimes you look back and you're like, hey, did I make the right call? Because if I'm going to pull that card, like, there's no going back.
Do you feel like the experience with your dad being, you didn't know he was violent at the time. Now you know, but you didn't know. But he was definitely loud and not treating a woman the way that you should. How did that affect you? Did you see that maybe, the result of that emotion show up in any other relationships you had, or how did that impact you?
No, not really. I believe I was able to compartmentalize that one pretty good and keep it out. The piece that got me, and this is, we're doing this full transparent here. So this is how we're going to do it. My dad, was constantly running around on my mom. Right. And I found myself swearing up and down I get into a relationship with this woman who I'm about to marry. And I was boyfriend, girlfriend, the whole deal for several years before then. And I swore I'd never do that. And I turn around and a couple years later, like, holy shit, I'm my dad in this situation. And that was one of the pieces when I started to get this feeling creeping up inside of me after many, many, many years and going through a whole bunch of shit. Right. And this feeling kept bubbling up. It was like, this, you've got to do something with this. And what the hell am I going to do with this? Because I swore to myself that, hey, no one knows about this. This is going to be a little dark secret. Like, nobody knows about it.
Are you saying that your dad's infidelity? Are you saying that was something you repeated?
Yeah, 100%.
With your previous marriage.
Yep, correct. Yeah, 100%. And there's lots of reasons to it. I've later found and uncovered through doing a lot of work on myself. And but it was like this insatiable feeling inside that did not. It was like the itch you can't scratch. And the only way that I was able to scratch that itch was to eventually tell her. Talk about uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a kick to the face.
Yeah.
I think for both sides, you both feel it, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Was it just eating away at you and you just had to get,
it was.
like, you had to?
It was.
Okay.
It was one of those things where it started to eat away and like, you don't know it, you don't know it, you don't know it, you don't know it.
Yeah.
The other trait that came from both sides of the family is I started drinking a lot. And I've talked to you about, the alcohol consumption. And I got to a point where, you're a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid. You go out and have a couple beers with your buds. All right. And then, you get to the age of 21 where I came from and like, all right, cool. We went out a couple more times. And then by the time I was 25, I was drinking every day of the week. And then, a little bit here, a little bit there. By the time I got married, the marriage part of it was like all of a sudden, hey, you're a grown adult, you've got a house, you got a wife. And what do people do when they get home from a day's work, whether it was a hard day or not? To relax. I'm going to open a beer. I pour myself a vodka soda. That became a daily habit. And you take this daily habit, even if it's 1, 2, or 3 drinks a day, and you start to roll this out over 10, 15, 20 years. And it does a lot. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Right? I've done a lot of reading and research on it. Right? I mean, one of the reasons they call spirits is because it disconnects you from spirit, disconnects you from your feelings, disconnects you from the emotions. And I've, through lots of work and figuring things out, it was like, holy shit, I think I'm over here casually having a couple of drinks because I do 2, 3 drinks a day. We talked about the physicality of me before we started the show here today. Okay. 6'4", 275 pounds. Like I could put a couple of beers away and it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was bothering me. And don't get me wrong. There were other occasions where it would go overboard and, I'd feel like crap for 3 days, especially once you get past the age of 35 or 40, the hangovers last a really long time.
Hoping I don't feel that anytime soon. But I've been told it's coming. I've been told.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to make this too much about business because I've told people before, like sometimes people just don't care. Like I as crazy as it sounds, I love what you're saying because it's real and it's your story. And not everyone cares about business and what's happening, but I've got to know though, what's happening in the business world in the background during all this. I mean, yeah, how were you operating in your business and day to day with, I mean, I think that, you know, problems in marriage, they don't just show up one day and it's like, we've had problems. Like it's a casual build, right? And it's a slow fade. But what's happening in your business at that time? How are you functioning?
Everything looked great from the outside looking in, man. I had the perfect family. I had the American dream. I had the corner house, white picket fence, purebred dog, 2 brand new cars in the driveway, wife, 3 amazing, beautiful, healthy kids, and a multi-million-dollar business. What was wrong?
But how did it feel though?
That's the problem.
Oh, okay.
That's where the problem came into. So here it is. I've done all of this work to make the outside. I made it to what society deemed acceptable. And yet everything in here didn't match what was on the exterior. And you can only hold up that fake mask for so long. So that was up until the point that I wound up exiting that company. It was my first business crashed and burned. The second one we did pretty good, right? I exited that company in 2020. So September 25th of 2020, I moved from Long Island, New York to Dallas, Texas. And I decided to go to work for myself doing coaching consulting and had a couple clients. I still had checks coming in from the old business still, like things were good. And it just took a pivot pretty quickly and I got involved in doing more and more. And I took on a role very similar to what I'm doing now. And along with that came tremendous responsibility, which that wasn't new to me, right? The stress, the payroll, hiring, firing, all of the things that come along. It wasn't new to me. I could deal with that pretty well. But the way that I was dealing with it was not in the healthiest of manner. And keep in mind, in 2018, I made a very intentional decision to work on the outside of me because I was rolling around before that, like just not healthy at all, right? Like super unhealthy. If it was in front of me, it went in the pie hole kind of deal, right? So,
quit talking about me right now, okay? Quit talking about me.
So he started to dial those things in, and it's like if let me backtrack a second here, because if I had the whole reason I got into coaching is because I had to go through that to make my business better at some point. Right? I got to a point where it's like I don't know what to do to make this thing better, to make things click. So let me go find someone who can help. If I had known by making that first phone call and hiring that first coach all these years ago, it was like 2014-ish, 2014, 2015. If I had known that conversation was going to lead me down the path that it did, because it started with, hey, I'm going to hire this coach to make the business better. And then all of a sudden they show you the mirror and like, hey, your business isn't getting better because you're a disaster. These are the things that are broken with you. And if you want to get this above this level, you've got to raise yourself before you can bring the business to the next level. Okay, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Right. So now you start going in and doing the work on you, and you uncover like, oh my God, it's a complete shit show back there. Like I've got to do all these things to fix myself. And each layer of the onion that you peel back, you find more and more and more like root cause issue. So I'm like slowly all of these years just pulling these layers back because I've intentionally surrounded myself with people who challenge me. And you know, there's a really good side of that because it makes you a better person, right? And there's a really tough side of that because if there's skeletons in the closet, there's things that are gnawing away at you. At some point in time, you're going to have to face them, or it will break you permanently.
So walk me through that. Walk me through that. So you're going through a coaching program where you've got to put all your cards on the table because you're like, I want to fix my business. No, quit talking about me. I want to fix my business, right? But now you've got to talk about you, right? So you've got all your cards on the table, and then are the marriage problems happening simultaneously?
I had no idea they were going on until they popped up.
Paint me the story. Paint me the full story. What's happening simultaneously? Yeah.
So when it first started, I mean, there was issues with my business partnership, with our relationship there. It's one of the reasons I wound up leaving that business too. I realized that we had grown apart, right? So for me, it was always business first, right? And I went and fixed the business stuff first because the rest of it we'll just sweep under the carpet and we'll deal with it later. And it got to a point where I had fixed so much of that. I got to a point where the company I was running at that point in time, like I was making big boy money. Right? Like, I don't worry about a thing. Okay. The money's coming in. You want the new car? You want to go buy the new purse? You want to go join this country club over here? Cool. Let's go. Those things were a reality in my life at that point in time. So I didn't have to worry about like, what are we doing for the next meal? How are we feeding the kids this week? So that you wind up focusing on different problems. Like now I don't have to go in and necessarily fix the business. I have to operate the business, but the business, even if I walked away for 2 weeks, is going to operate like a well-oiled machine because we got some heavy hitters working for us who know what they're doing. Right. And you also, I was fortunate enough to see some people around me who were doing things correctly in some areas, and maybe they weren't doing all of them correctly, but it showed me a window of like, oh, I see how he or she is doing this over here, and it has helped them in this area of their life and or business. Let me go explore that. And I did. I started exploring more of it, and I'll give a lot of credit to the current missus. And she always challenged me. She always saw something more in me than anybody else has ever seen before, and really forced me to challenge a lot of the status quos that we have here as a society. And when you do that, and she would feed me a string. And curiosity gets you sometimes, and you're like, oh, maybe it's plausible. And you go do this deep dive into it, and like 6 weeks later, you come up and you're like, oh my God. And now you're convinced, and you start doing all this work to make it a reality for yourself. Like that's how a lot of it happened for me. And this started with alcohol. It started with clearing myself of the alcohol, and when I cleared myself of the alcohol, which was one of the biggest factors that was holding me back, it enabled me, well, I shouldn't say enabled, it forced me to start feeling for the first time in probably 2 decades or more. And you like, all right, cool. Like I already gave that stuff up. I really don't want to go back there. Now I got to feel these feels, and I can't go and use the same crutch that I'd used all of this time to kind of subdue them.
You're forced to deal with the reality now of things
Correct.
That you didn't process beforehand.
Correct. That, and you roll in a couple of sessions with mushrooms at home by yourself, and some wild things will come into your mind.
I've heard a lot of things about that, actually. Yeah. I've heard a lot of therapeutic components to it, specifically with veterans that are dealing with PTSD and other traumas. That was a big piece of it for me. I had known several people who had gone and intentionally did, and I'm not talking recreationally. I'm not talking, hey, let's go get some mushrooms and have fun with our friends like we're in college. Yeah, therapeutic. Right? Like very therapeutic, very intentional with it. And
was it guided?
So I've done both.
Okay. I'm curious.
Yeah, the second time was guided. I paid a bunch of money for it, and like I'd pay it again tomorrow.
Oh, really?
It was that life altering for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Here, in Texas?
No, I went to Utah for it.
Okay.
And it was a very private setting in someone's home, and literally just cracked the can open.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't tell you about that also is you will crack the can open. You will have to face these issues. We all have them, right? Everyone has trauma in their life. I don't care what you think you have or haven't dealt with in your life. Some form of trauma is in there. Mm-hmm. And you deal with these issues, and there's this whole reintegration period that comes afterwards. And for me, part of that reintegration period was like, oh, okay, I see all these things that are broken, and I'm a fixer. Have been my whole life. Right. My first career started, I worked with my hands for 20 something years. Like I want to go and fix things because if I see something wrong, I can't just let it be. I've got to fix it, or it'll eat me up inside. So now you go into this fix it mode. And for me to fix what I had spent all of these decades building, I built this foundation that had supported the lifestyle, the business, the things. And I realized that the foundation that I built was built shoddy. And it needed to be torn down. And in order to tear it down, I had to do things that were uncomprehendable to most. I had to split up a marriage right after my ex-wife battled breast cancer and underwent a double mastectomy. Okay. So the second I say, hey, I'm out, I'm immediately painted as the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that going into it, finding somebody else in the middle of this too, who has supported you like nobody has supported you before in your life. And I don't know, man, it's like this weird knowing that for some reason, the two of us are supposed to be here with each other and connected. But what is society going to think about that? What is my mom going to think? What is this one going to think? What are my ex-in-laws going to think? What are my kids going to think?
Yeah.
You know, all these questions run through your head. And it feels isolated for sure. Even if you have people to talk to, there's certain things you may not want to talk to them about. And that's where this really came in for me was, going through this experience, talking with somebody who had zero emotional attachment to the outcome whatsoever. That's the magic of business coaching too, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. I bought into that because that's how it worked for me. That's how I went and I've successfully coached a lot of my clients in the past. And now someone's telling me, hey, this is going to work for you because there's no emotional attachment. And I was like, oh, cool. I get it. Mm-hmm. Right. You're hitting me with the same pitch for the sales process that I would use.
So I hope this doesn't sound too rough, but what were you thinking in the time where you had realized your ex-wife was battling breast cancer, but you still decided, I'm assuming if I'm hearing right, you still decided that there was another person that you wanted to be your partner. What made you decide that?
Well, lots of things. There was a lot of moving pieces at that point in time. Okay. So from a bigger picture, right? February 2022, the ex gets diagnosed with breast cancer. By June, she goes in, has a double mastectomy. July, that fancy high-paying job I told you I had, it's the first job in my entire life I was ever fired from. Okay, so June, she has surgery. July, I get cut. So I've got high 5 to 6 figures a month coming in that immediately pipeline turned off. It's like, all right, well, I better get to business real fast. And luckily, I had enough things in place where I could basically pivot and hit the go button for my own consulting and coaching at the time. And I did. And never in a million years did I think that any of this would happen. Right. And I fly out to Utah in August of 2022. I go to speak at this event and couple really cool things happen there. I go speak at the event and I wind up sharing an Uber ride back to the hotel with this guy who's a business attorney who was talking at this event. And long story short, he lives here in Denton. Okay. He's my attorney to this day because a week prior, the company that had fired me hit me with a federal lawsuit. Okay, I got a lot of things going on right now in my world at this point.
These are about 5 things in.
Yep. Okay. And this is wild. So I need an attorney now, and I wind up sharing an Uber. So cool. Make cool. It happens. We get back to Texas. I hire the guy. We do the thing. And I wrote a book in June of 2019. It was released, and the woman who edited that book became a dear friend. And she happened to live in Utah at that point in time. And I called her up and I said, hey, she lived in Park City. I'm in Salt Lake. I'm speaking at this event. Don't know what you got going on. I know you're a single mom. You got 4 kids. But we got this speaker dinner thing, it'd be great to see you. And I had met her one time prior to that. And we just stayed good friends who communicated every couple weeks, every couple months prior to this. And, I went there, saw her, and we hung out one night, and there was nothing relationship-wise between us. We hung out as friends, and we went to it's funny because neither of us drink anymore. we went to a bar on the side, on some street corner in Salt Lake City, which is kind of weird drinking in Salt Lake City.
Right. They do that there?
And we went and we had a whole bunch of drinks and we just talked, and like we both opened up like, you know, cans and just talked to each other and told each other things that I don't think either of us had told many other people at all. So there's this connection, and I wound up getting stuck there because airlines were still doing a weird thing with COVID and whatnot. They wound up canceling all my flights back. So I get stuck there like an extra day in Salt Lake City. And I call her up again. I'm like, hey, I'm stuck here. You know, I got no place to go. If you want to come back down, maybe we can go do something. So she comes down, drives, and she has all her girls with her. She picks me up and we went and grabbed a quick bite to eat, dropped me off at the hotel, and like, cool, it was done. From that moment, we stayed in contact. Right, we were texting more frequently, but that was really it. And then I hosted my first event in November of 2022 here in Dallas, DFW area. And I'm like, well, she's my editor. She's a branding expert, and she knows her social media game pretty darn well. And like, I need someone to talk on that skill set at the event. So I'll call her up. I need you to speak at my event. Can you do it? Yep. So she comes on down. So at this point in time, my ex came off the operating table in June with a clear bill of health. Okay. She still had to go through a couple rounds of chemo and a ridiculous amount of radiation to make sure it was gone. But when she came off that operating table, she had a clean bill of health. And, but it's just this wild whirlwind of stuff that's going on. Okay. So I don't even know what's going on. And this is Catherine, my current missus, my soon-to-be wife, second wife. And she has no idea. Like, there was no intention behind either of us to go into a relationship or anything like that. So November comes, she does the event. We do another event in February. And like, by this point in time, I'm texting and communicating with her multiple times a day. She's one of the only people who truly understands me. And I can open up and talk to her about some of the things that I'm dealing with the ex and business. And she knew the guy who filed the federal lawsuit against me. So like, there was just things that I could communicate and talk to her about that nobody else could understand. It was kind of like my confidant, if that makes any sense.
Your safe place.
It was a very safe place, and it was a two-way street because I was her safe place as well. Yeah. So now we roll into January of 2023. Sorry, February 2023. This is like 4 or 5 days before the event I'm supposed to host that she's coming to. And I was set to fly out to Las Vegas to speak at a big conference. And we had our infamous 1 week closure ice storm that happens every January, February here in the DFW area. It happened to fall this week that I have to travel, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it. So the roads clear up literally like the day that I'm supposed to fly out. And at the time I was flying JSX Airlines out of Love Field a lot, and they're like a semi-private airline. And I go there and I got this big old truck. I drive a TRX. I valet the truck. Long story short, we take off delayed. We're in the air about 15, 20 minutes. The pilot gets on and says, hey folks, we're having mechanical issues. We have to circle back around to Love Field and we have to get you on a new plane. So sorry, you're going to get there late tonight. Cool. Is what it is. As long as I get there tonight, I'm fine because I speak tomorrow morning. We land. I go sit back in this lobby and I hear my name called over this loudspeaker. Like it's an FOB style private airport. Like there's not a lot of people there. And I'm like, let's call my name. So this guy comes over and grabs me. He's like, are you Tomas Keenan? I said, yeah. He grabs me. He goes, come with me, please. And we walk to this back corner of this place, like where the staff should go. No customers, clients should be in this area. I'm like, man, something ain't right here. Something ain't right here. And like, what the hell's going on? So he opens the door and there's 2 uniformed Dallas police officers waiting for me. Dude, my heart sinks, right? I got all the butterflies in the world and I'm like, oh my God, one of 2 things has happened. Okay. Option 1, I left a bag of gummies in my suitcase. Yeah. Option 2, I left my gun in the bag. Like that's it. Yeah. Right. And I walk in there, and one of the cops looks at me, and I must have turned white, dude, like sheet white. And he's like, you didn't do anything. You're fine. But the manager has some news he has to share with you. I'm like, okay, what's up, man? Like, did somebody die? Like, did I lose a family member and you're going to give me the worst news of my life? The guy pulls out his phone and starts showing me pictures of my truck that one of their valet drivers crashed into a tree at 53 miles an hour and totaled.
Wow.
Okay.
What?
It's like from February to February in this 12-month window, I've had like loss after loss after loss and like just mud and shit thrown at me over and over and over again. And that was one of the last nights I left there. They gave me a rental car, and I drove home. Didn't make the event, by the way. And I remember driving home in this rental car, and I went over to a Mexican restaurant that was close to the house, and I sat there and I had like 7 drinks and then drove home, which I 10 out of 10 don't recommend, by the way.
Yeah, definitely. Not.
Yeah, and that was
In a
like
rental.
in the rental. Yep. And that was like, one of the last things like I wasn't mad about the vehicle getting destroyed because it's car's a car. Okay. But my name was on it and I had to go and do this whole BS thing with all the insurance. Like nobody else can do that for you as a grown adult. Mm-hmm. Right. So like these things were just stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking. In the first week of January, I had already committed to going on this journey in Utah. And I had signed a contract and I had to make the deposit. And the facilitator, she said to me, she goes, this is official now. And she's like, don't be surprised if some really weird things start happening in your life before you get here. And like, this was one of them.
Yeah.
And they just kept stacking up and stacking up and stacking up. And finally, it was right before, probably 2 weeks before I went to see her. I was in Boston speaking at another event that my friend was hosting. The ex came with me. The future missus was also speaking at that event too. So it was really weird because we actually, the three of us sat down and had a conversation in the hotel at that night because we all knew that something was going on. Like we've never experienced this before. And like me, I'm trying to just be the typical Libra of the room and keep balance between everybody. And it didn't go over well by anyone, any party.
So y'all, wait, I'm so confused. So y'all had a question about the unspoken elephant in the room between the three of you.
Yes, we did.
Holy cow.
Yes, we did.
I'm sweating for you.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this already happened, but
yeah, it was a tense conversation, as you can imagine. Mm-hmm. Very tense conversation. And this is like 2 weeks before I flew out to Utah and went on my official journey.
All that happening in a 12-month time frame.
Yep.
And I'm not an idiot to where I think anyone is completely invincible, no matter what you see on social media. I mean, the biggest names in business and in any coaching industry, I don't see them as invincible. There's a breaking point. I think that everyone would have. Did you think that was your like breaking point? Did you ever consider, even like taking your own life?
No,
I mean,
not once.
Why not? I mean, I think any other normal person would think to themselves, I can't do this.
Yeah, to me, none of the problems were unsolvable, right? And I've always had this motto in my life, like, this too shall pass. Like the sun's going to rise again tomorrow, no matter what. The moon's going to come up again at some point in time. The clouds are going to pass, and you're going to see the sun again at some point. And like I've had like not really much. I haven't dealt with suicidal thoughts much. I would say I had a few of them around the puberty age where things are just kind of weird as a kid growing up, right? You kind of have a couple of those thoughts, but they never really stuck around long with me. And I also attribute that to the amount of love and support that I had in my mom's house too, right? But no, like, dude, like I was very grateful that I really wasn't dealing with too much of that. And I think a lot of it also, keep in mind, I'm now in this transition period where I'm getting rid of alcohol more and more as every day passes. Mm-hmm. Okay. I've also, while I was in Boston, right, the last day that we were there, I sat down with the ex and told her about the infidelity. Okay, so as shitty as that conversation was, talk about a terrible trip to Boston, by the way. I love Boston. This massive weight was lifted, right? And knowing that I was going to get some real help in a few short weeks was like just enough to keep me going. Mm-hmm. Now, did I know what was going to come after that help was given to me? Because that cracked the can open top to bottom, I had no idea, but that's kind of the mentality that I had to go through it with. It was like, hey, let's just get through to the next obstacle, the next waypoint kind of mentality.
I've got massive respect for not only people that have a great work ethic, because I know what that takes, but I think I'm way more impressed by things like this because you have to literally tell people the worst about you.
Yeah.
Things you're not proud of, and you have to openly say it and say, look, this is me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things that you could do is just show people how freaking human you are.
Yeah.
And so, dude, thanks for sharing that. Mm-hmm. That's not easy. I don't know how many people will watch this. I'm hoping it's a lot, but after what you're telling me, I hope it's not too many. No, I'm kidding. But that takes a lot. I'm curious though. Your partner now, remind me.
Catherine.
Yeah. Okay, Catherine. What would life look like now had you not met Catherine?
It would look a lot different for sure. For sure. I think a lot of the older habits, the bad habits that I had, would have stayed around permanently.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Because it's like, there was a period before we really got serious where I was kind of at this pivot point and I could have gone either way. Right? Like, hey.
Teetering.
Like for the first time in my life, because I met my ex when I was like 21. For the first time in my life, here I am, I'm 40 something years old. I'm in pretty good shape. I know I'm not ugly. Okay. Like the confidence is still there because the wins bring confidence. They just do. You work on yourself in the physical aspect long enough, it brings confidence. It just does. And the game was a lot different. Like I was the kid who wasn't outspoken. I was quiet. I was reserved. I was made fun of as a kid. And here I am as an adult and like I blossomed. So getting attention from the opposite sex was super easy. And I almost feel as if there is a radar, there's an energetic shift when you go through a situation like that, a divorce or a split up, where people just know. And I easily could have gone down that path of let's go out there and party. And I'm really glad that I didn't.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's
Because
hard.
like at the end of the day, I got kids and they're more important than any random woman would ever be to me.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
What's happening during all this with your children? I mean, you seem like someone that gives a damn about the relationship with their kids.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to put myself in your shoes to try to see how I would feel. And I'm not trying to make you feel bad by any means, but I would almost be like reluctant to even look at my kids, you know? And again, that's not out of judgment. That's out of like, I care how they see me. And I almost would feel like I can't even, like, I can't talk to you. I can't look at you. Like, that's tough, you know? And yeah, man, I feel for you. And people are going to, you know, say, oh, Mario, you can't be so sympathetic with someone who's made decisions like that. Well, I don't know. I've read in a few books that if you were placed in the same shoes, you might not have done anything different. So I'm not so naive to think that I would have made any different decisions if I was in your shoes.
Sure.
You know, so I'm trying not to see things that way. But man, to me, that would hurt.
Yeah.
What was your relationship like with your kids during the time?
I tried to uphold it to the best of my ability at all times. So It's funny. Before we recorded, I made a joke. I said, balance is bullshit. There's no such thing, and I truly believe that. So for me, in order to have enough physical, mental energy to cope with the kids, deal with the kids, be there for the kids, all the things, parent. And I'm parenting in a way different way now at this point in time too. Like I've never been the one staying home doing things at the house because my ex handled all that while I just did business. And I had a choice. The choice could be show up and take care of the kids, be present as much as possible, or and drop the business, or focus on business, and you'll have to do less with the kids. And one of the things that I fought for out of the gate, even with the divorce starting and the whole hoopla that comes along with it, was like, I grew up in a divorce household. There was not 50-50 custody. 50-50 custody in 1984 was not a very common thing. Okay, it just wasn't. And thank goodness it wasn't, especially with my dad. But I did not want it any other way. Like, hey, I helped make these kids, right? They're my responsibility just as much as they are the ex's. And I want as much time with them as I can. Mm-hmm. So that was where the fight was for me, was ensuring that I would get 50-50 with those kids and I could spend as much time with them as I possibly could. In the interim, Catherine and I, our relationship, takes off and we establish roots. She picks up and moves her kiddos and herself from Salt Lake City here to DFW. We get a new house, and like the scary thing for us is like, hey, we like each other a lot. Our kids have met each other a handful of times, but when we put them in the same household, which by the way, I don't care how big your house is, you get 7 kiddos and 2 adults in that house. Party. It gets pretty tight real fast. But that was a major concern of both of us, was like, hey, just because we like each other and love each other doesn't mean our kids are going to do that either. And like, thank goodness it just worked out. Like those kiddos love each other. Each other. So yeah.
That's great, man. I see that as a gift. I mean, anything could have happened. I mean, anything could have easily gone sideways in this new relationship.
Yep.
What would you consider the turning point of the entirety of your story? Because I mean, you've got a business you're building in the background. You're dealing with a lot of personal issues in a very short amount of time.
Sure.
I've got to hope that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. In the moment, you probably don't think so.
No way. It's never ending. Like, when is this going to end?
Right.
Yeah.
What was that turning point?
Well, it got worse before it got better.
Oh no.
It just did. I wound up pretty much going flat broke through the whole process, between divorce, attorneys, all the crap that comes along with it. Paying off some bad debt that we had post sale of our home, giving a whole chunk of money to her. Because one of my things that I said to her out of the gate was, hey, you haven't worked in 10 years. I'm going to give you a pile of money so you can basically go ahead and set yourself up and hit the ground running. And I did that. I told her I was going to do it, and I did it.
Good for you.
Because I was like, I have my own business. If I need to make more money, I'll figure out a way. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, on the back end of it, there was a lot of shit talking going on. A lot of people being contacted who happened to be active clients of mine. And I started seeing my clients just drop off. And it was very intentional.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it came to a couple of points in time where I had gone up to her at like kids soccer. Like, you realize that what you're doing is impacting my ability to pay you the child support that I've agreed to. Wow. And it was like, what are you doing?
If I can play devil's advocate for just a second,
sure.
For someone who, had battled, breast cancer,
sure,
and someone who found out that, their husband was cheating, mm-hmm. and, they're getting divorced. I mean, she probably is not feeling too great about herself, mm-hmm. Maybe insecure, hurt, you had to expect maybe that something like that was
Yeah.
coming, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
and I tried to mitigate as much of it as possible. So by this point in time, she's already gone in and had full-blown reconstructive surgery. Top to bottom. Full mommy makeover. Okay? And I'm not saying good or bad here. I'm just laying out the facts.
yeah.
She had a job. She was making money. Matter of fact, she's got 3 jobs. 2 of them happen to be off the books. Okay? She's in a new relationship. Cool. Like, go do your thing. The piece of it for me is like, hey, like I tried to end this thing as amicably as possible, knowing that I did some pretty shitty things throughout our marriage that I'm not proud of. And I was man enough to come to you and just, here it is. Open the book. Here's all the crap. Right. And one of the things that we talked about and we had verbally agreed to, let me say that very clearly here, was to basically go ahead and put together an uncontested divorce. Hey, this is what you get. This is what I get. And we're going to have one flat fee that we pay the attorney. We're basically going to send this document into the judge and they're going to stamp it and everything's good to go.
No fighting.
No fighting at all. Like that's what I didn't want to fight over this.
Clean.
Didn't want to fight over this. And she said, yeah. 2 days before the attorney was supposed to submit that paperwork, I was served. And it had a whole bunch of things listed in there that were just like not cool. It basically had all of our assets. Our house was for sale at the time. All of our assets, including the house, would have gone into, I think the court's probate. Basically, if we had sold the house while this lawsuit was in place, it's really all divorces, a lawsuit. If we had sold the house during this time frame, the county would have taken all of the proceeds of the house. Like all of my equity was there. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like all the money that I planned on giving her to set her up was there. So like I had to go in and she had a lot of people chirping in her ear, is what it is.
Yep.
Like, hey, this is hurting you just as much, if not more than it's hurting me in the end of this. Mm-hmm. So she went in and pulled it out. Okay. Are we going to do this thing amicably again? Yeah. Didn't happen. So we basically went back and forth for 18 months. Attorneys, discovery, more attorneys, all this crap. And at the end of 18 months and all the money that was spent, she walked out and I walked out with the initial deal that I'd offered her.
Just how it goes. That's crazy.
Yeah. And like we both got to a point probably like 30 days before the actual papers were signed. She came and dropped the kids off. At this time, she was living 3 blocks from me, which wasn't a bad thing. It was actually really convenient. She drops the kids off.
I bet.
And she's like, hey, I want to be done. I'm like, oh, thank God. Like now, cool. Let's just be done with it. And you know, she called her attorney. He got with her attorney, got with my attorney, and like we were done very soon after that. And things started like that was one of the things that had to be like we had to cross the T's and dot the I's and be done with that in order for other things to move forward. Backtrack. The winter between, me and the new missus get a bright idea to start a new business that we've never done before. Okay. And like we both own multiple businesses and had pretty darn good success with some of the companies we run. So we're thinking like, it's just another business. Let's go. We bought into a tax prep franchise and lost $180,000 in 6 weeks. So like literally everything had to get torn down to the studs and then burned again before we could go in and start to rebuild the foundation. Does that make sense?
I wish it didn't. I'm just blown away at how, and maybe you weren't handling it well. I mean, it seems like you've made it this big now,
yeah,
which is actually pretty inspiring. But at the time, I'd be losing it. Mm-hmm. I mean, and this is why we're here, and this is why you're telling it, because that makes my problems really small.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that makes other founders who are going through their journey. You know, I remember telling Erick something about losing 6 months on some project. And he was like, dude, you're lucky it wasn't, 6 months worth of income or $60,000 or anything like that. And so perspective helps. And the perspective that you just shared makes my problems really small. And I'm hoping it makes other people's problems really small. Because you kind of, I don't know what haven't you gone through? I mean, at this point, what haven't you been through?
And I have a question actually.
Sure.
So you use the word inspired. What kept you going during that time? Because that is some of the lowest of lows that someone could hit.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've hit some pretty low lows and I know what I cling to, but I'm just curious what kept you going.
We kind of started the podcast. One of the things we talked about was love. Like there's love, at this point I've rekindled a relationship with my mom. That drawbridge came back down. She wasn't welcome in my home for a while, like when that drawbridge was up. And one of the things that we did, she finally called me on like a Sunday. She FaceTimed me, and like I had been ignoring calls and just non-communicative for a while. And I answered the call, and she was kind of starting with a little bit of an attitude and coming at an angle that I didn't like. And Catherine happened to be in the room, and Catherine wasn't thrilled with the way my mom was approaching it either. And Catherine's ability to communicate is off the charts. I mean, she edits books for a living. Like she's a literal expert in the English language.
Wordsmith.
And she is. And also has, a lot of like advanced psychology training as well. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's like she understands the way the human mind works and how to communicate with people like no one I've ever met before. So she comes in and sort of kind of like mediates the conversation, but not really. And it started this healing process between me and mom and Catherine too. Cause like my mom and Catherine didn't know each other. My mom just thinks like, oh, that's the woman right there that just replaced my daughter-in-law that, I spent 20 years loving.
She's the bad guy.
Right. Mm-hmm. And we started having these open, direct, authentic conversations. Okay. And that right there was a key piece. And it started with a couple phone calls. It started with a couple FaceTimes. It started with, hey, let's, bring the kids over here so they can see grandma kind of thing. We call her Abby, by the way. That's my Puerto Rican mama.
Abby.
Yeah.
You're Puerto Rican?
Puerto Rican.
Half Puerto Rican, yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah.
My husband's half Puerto Rican.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then mom came into the house, and that was a differentiator.
Okay.
Say, hey, mom, come on down. She got her butt on a plane. Okay. My 7-year-old mama, she's a little bit older now. And she came down here and she spent time with us in the home with 7 kids. And I think she got to see with her own 2 eyes that, this is put together well. Like you guys are doing this with intentionality. You're doing it with love. You're doing it with support of the kids. The kids are well taken care of. There's no one's ripping this one's hair out of their head kind of deal. No one's cutting school kind of deal. Like they're being well taken care of. They're growing up in a loving home. And when my mom got to see that, not hear it, not hearsay, actually see it, is when things really got solid for us again.
Love heals. It really does.
Yeah, it does.
So much so, I'm almost confused. I'm almost confused at how well you were able to not move on, because obviously you're here sharing your story and it's part of who you are. It's part of what you've been through, but it almost doesn't phase you. It's almost like a separate life. It's a different Thomas. Like you can speak to it, not because that's who you are anymore, right? You've almost created a totally different identity.
It was a season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ultimately, it was a season of life that I had to get through.
You seem abundantly aware of like who you are today, who you were then. Like you've clearly done a lot of work on yourself.
Yeah.
It's evident.
Thank you.
Good for you.
I appreciate that.
What question should people be asking you with all this in mind, with everything you've shared, obviously you guys are crushing it in business now, with your partner and your new venture, but what questions should we be asking you that's maybe made you the cornerstone of who you are now, the strength that you have, the confidence you have, the transparency you're able to walk with, what should we be asking you that we haven't?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty common question that comes right to the top of my head when you put it that way to me. We hear often, especially in the small business self-development community, get your house in order. Right. And a lot of people are like, oh, get my house in order, make sure I get my taxes filed and, paperwork, and I know what my bills are, and and like, oh, make sure the mortgage is paid on time. Like, that's a part of it. Don't get me wrong. It's also called being a grown ass adult. Okay.
Responsibility.
Yeah, it's responsibilities, right? But get your house in order. Like, there's so much crap that most of us just sweep under the carpet and we refuse to face, address, talk about. And like, it's in the uncomfortable conversations where you're going to uncover a lot of the big pain points and have the most growth. And one of the things I've learned from Catherine, because when we got together, her parenting style is way different than mine. Okay. And she has an amazing relationship with her 4 girls where they will come and literally tell her anything.
That's great.
Wow.
Because they feel that confident. Right.
That's awesome.
And watching her build this life, this home, this ability to have that open, authentic, and direct conversation with her girls has just been beautiful. So how do you mimic that? Right. And there's a lot to it. I don't even know all the ways, right? She's the expert there. But, seeing that and now hearing it, how can you set it up so if you're a parent, your kids aren't going to be ashamed to come to you and tell you something that's bothering them?
Which I think is easier said than done, but you would ultimately want that. I mean, I tell my girls, sometimes they'll tease each other about boys that they think, and they're 7, but the boys they think that are cute, and I'll tell them, who knows more about boys, mommy or daddy? Some would argue mommy, but I'm a guy, so I know about guys. So I'll tell them, if you have questions about boys, come ask me.
Yeah.
Come ask me. So I'm trying early to plant the seed that you don't need to hide from what you're feeling, in general, but specifically about, boys. You don't need to hide that. You can bring it to me. And so I'm trying to instill that now. So I see why you would say that, but it sounds to me like you think people should be asking you more about, how do I get my life in order behind the scenes?
Correct.
You mentioned to me earlier before we started that what separates you guys from other business coaching programs out there is that you require either the partner, the business partner, or the spouse to be involved with the program. Is that right?
Yeah, we it's an option.
It's an option. Okay.
So if you, let's say you wanted to come in and join, it's recommended. Yeah.
That's so good.
We have these events very often. We host an event on average once a month. If you're one of our top tier mastermind members, you get access to all of them. You're probably not gonna be able to come to all of them because we host so many, but if you wanted to, you could. And the rule is, if you want to bring a spouse or a business partner, cool, it's covered. Like, we don't expect you to pay for a ticket. We want that supportive person in the room with you.
Yeah.
We find, and I've experienced this, and I kind of talked to you about it a little bit before. If the spouse or the business partner isn't in the room with you when you're learning at an advanced level, you go home and you try to explain to them this amazing thing that you learned from this person who's won somewhere else in life, and they're hearing it from you, and they think it's your voice, and it's this new crazy fandangled idea that you came up with.
Right.
Meanwhile, if they had just heard directly from the horse's mouth, they would have bought in just as fast as you did.
Yeah.
So the more that we can do to get the spouse and or business partner into the room with the member, we're all for it. Because I've personally witnessed that.
Snaps around for that, because that is something we run into all the time in the business world. Like, the wife will be like, oh, I don't think it's such a great idea. Now you're unequally, you don't have the same knowledge. They have more knowledge because they sat through the pitch. They sat there and learned, and you were not there. And now you're telling them what decision to make. So that's huge. I love that y'all do that. Yeah.
One of the other objections that I've seen come around pretty often is like, I'm not so sure my husband should be doing that. It's going to be like the good old boys club there. He's going to go and see you guys every couple months, and he's going to go and party and go to the steakhouse and drink. And like, when they actually come with the husband or vice versa, they realize like, oh, wait a second. Like, Yeah, some people may go out to dinner. Maybe a couple people here and there do have a couple of drinks, but this is not the bachelor party when they come down to see us. No, it's not the objective. Like we have real things to do, right? We truly want to help people succeed in their business. And in order to help them succeed in their business, we have to help them in other areas too.
Mm-hmm.
I love that that's the standard y'all set, given the story you just told us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full circle.
So if you're talking to founders directly, based on everything you've shared so far, what's one thing that you would have them do to avoid these pitfalls of, some of them circumstantial. Your truck, can't do nothing about that. That just is what it is, right? Yeah. But some of these were a direct result of your own decision making.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
What would you tell founders to avoid these things that they should do? What would you leave them with as we land the plane? That's
a really good question. What would I tell them to avoid? I mean, it's different for everybody. Everyone's got their own vice or vices. For some it's drugs, some it's alcohol, some it's women and sex. Like it varies. Some it's all the above. Like, what are you doing when no one's around? What places are you going to? What exits are you trying to get off to sneak around it? And like, what places do you know that people probably shouldn't know about? Right? Like if you're thinking that way and you'd be ashamed to show someone in your family the places that you're going to, you've been at, like something's not right.
Playing devil's advocate again.
Yeah.
But what does that really have to do with me being successful in business? I mean, can I just do what I need to do, make money, and who gives a rip about what I'm doing behind closed doors?
Because I think it impacts a lot more than just you, right? One mistake, and it could literally change the trajectory of your entire life. And one of the things as a leader, and this is something that I've preached to people for a long time, right? As somebody who's employed a whole bunch of people for most of my life, I'll take payroll, for instance. Okay. I had a guy ask me this several years ago. I was still running my install company in New York. And he said, what keeps you up at night? And I said, my team does. Like, what do you mean? It's like, I got 30 guys on payroll. Okay. I don't look at it as 30 guys on payroll because every one of those guys, for the most part, there wasn't a person on my payroll at that time who was single. Every one of those guys was married, and most of them had kids. Some of them, because of their culture, had grandma or grandpa living in the house with them too. So you've got a guy who's, say Rob, he's got 3 kids, a wife, and his mom lives at the house too. Plus he's got 2 dogs. He's got a new car. His wife's got a new car, and they're putting 2 of the kids through college. All of that's my responsibility, not just Rob. So if you looked at this thing as like a pyramid and you took one person and you say, okay, well, if Rob is my responsibility, who is Rob responsible for? And all of that comes uphill. Mm-hmm. So if you take these 30 people and each guy has, let's easy math, 30 people and 3, like I've got 90 responsibilities that fall on me, not just 30. And the bigger the team gets, the bigger this responsibility comes as well. So your actions could literally impact hundreds of people inadvertently if you make the wrong choice, the wrong decision.
Did you feel and realize that as you were confessing your wrongs and your decisions? Mm-hmm. Like, do you see the connection point there? I mean, totally. It's amazing to hear.
Totally. You mentioned awareness. Mm-hmm. I was aware of that long before I decided to do anything about it. That's the part that kind of ekes me as well. Is like, why did I wait so long to finally take actions on what I knew was wrong? Mm. And there's always a right time for certain things. Like it happens when it's supposed to happen. And I had to go through these various steps to finally get to the point where I could divulge the bad. Mm-hmm. In order so I could start tearing it down and rebuild and put the foundation in place to get to where we're going.
Well, man, it takes a lot to do that. So, man, thank you for sharing everything you have. And, I think I would be doing the audience a disservice if I went into some boring crap about, so how's business? Because honestly, I mean, what good would that be if they don't go and tackle the thing you just mentioned, which is, dude, is your house in order? How's your home? How are you? Yeah. Which I think is probably the better question. How are you?
Still rebuilding, to be fully transparent with you, right? But going back to the foundation talk, the foundation that has been laid is so I don't even know the strength of this foundation. It's way stronger than the last one, right? It doesn't have holes in it. So this foundation that we've built is going to be able to support so much more. I had built as much as I could possibly build on the old foundation. Like if I had put an additional piece of straw on that, the whole thing would have come crumbling down. So here's this new one, and we spent these last 3.5 or so years putting this new foundation in place. And it's wild how the world works. Okay, God, the universe, whatever term you want to use, when you start doing the work to lay this new foundation, magically new opportunities start to appear. Mm-hmm. So, I talked about this on stage from this event that we hosted this past week. I talked to 168 people in the room, and I said to them, it's like, you guys are sitting here in the seats at this conference today, and 14 months ago, I was sitting in those seats with you. And here I am on the opposite side of the room. Yeah. And not only am I here speaking in front of you today to give you some lessons that will hopefully help you in life and business, because my talk was life and business. I'm also an integral part of the team who put this event on in order to help you succeed in business, right? Which that aligns directly with my personal purpose as well as Billy's.
You seem grateful.
Yeah. Gratitude is everything. It really is. And one of the things that I've been trying to work on, like I've known of gratitude, I've worked with a lot of gratitude over the last several years, even before all the crap happened with the divorce and whatnot. But I'm trying to practice gratitude for future events as if it's already happened.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that too. I love that.
Well, I'm grateful that you chose to take a little bit of time and to share your story here. And our gift for you for coming on is I have it with me, but it's actually right there. If you don't mind, Lexi, this is our Dear Founder coffee.
Love it.
Every founder, I think, needs to have a double dose of that in an IV drip into the arms or straight to the dome.
Yep.
However you want to take it, but everyone needs a good old bag of coffee.
That's awesome. This is going right into the coffee pot tomorrow morning.
Yes.
I told you before we were talking, and I was like, man, I'm like clockwork, 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day minimum.
Nice. Yeah, I think you'll love it. It's
That'll last you the week.
Yeah. It's good quality stuff too. Well, man, thank you for taking some time and putting your stamp on the show and telling your story. To all the founders out there, I think they'll have a sense of, man, I'm so glad I'm not that guy, right? Or they'll have a sense of, man, I really relate to that, and I'm so glad I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And you mentioned to me that that's what you were hoping. You're hoping for.
It's always the mindset. If one if one person listens to this episode in total, and that one person is able to take something away from this, and it helps them in life or business, it's a win.
That's great, man. Thanks for coming on, Dear Founder.
Thank you. I appreciate it.